Freedoms and Freaks, we are back with another board garage installation of the Quiver. Today we're going to be going over some gliders. You guys have seen way too many nose riders. So changing it up, got a little bit more of a, something you can ride in a little bit more wave when it gets a little bigger around here. So to begin, we have a 9.0 glider. It's a remake by Mitzvin after a Skip Fry Eagle. This has insane concaves. It's a really, really fast board. We don't ride it really. We only ride it on big days. It's only taken out on big days. This is a big wave board. Has a whole lot of speed, but it turns pretty well. Got to be going fast though. It's made to make peaks and do nothing else. You gotta just, it just connects peaks basically.
So yeah, absolutely. This is the section connector. About 9.5 years ago, a board came into a local shop and I fell in love with it.
And the Beach House, not just a local shop. This is the Beach House we're talking about. Yeah.
Beach House down in Bay Head, New Jersey. Eric's shop, best shop in the world. So. Yeah, so the board came in, and the story I got behind the board was Bob Mitzvin made it in the Shaping Bay. It was a 9.6 glider single fin, and Skip was in the bay with him at the time, and may or may not have finished the board.
Just a little Skip Fry magic, just a little nuance of Skip Fry, and yeah,
sprinkling the magic dust on it. And I drooled over the board for about a year, and I was just all frothing on it, and my buddy Uncle Reegs finally had enough of me talking about it, and he said, just go in and buy it. And the day I went in and bought it, to buy it, it was gone.
And heart sank, shit your pants.
Crushed, absolutely crushed.
So what do? You order one.
So I call up Bob and say, Mr. Mitzvin, could you do me a favor? So we were talking a lot about this, and Bob's great about talking through a build. And you know, there was a lot of concern about whether a San Diego type board would fit here on steep East Coast vertical beach break. So we took the board down from 9.6 down to 9 foot. And instead of a single fin, we used Skip Fry template micro side bites. They're 2.75 glass-ons.
That look fantastic. They look, it doesn't matter how functional they are. They just look proper as hell.
Right, and then by putting the side bites on, we were able to reduce the size of the center fin. So on a 9-foot board, I'm running a 6.5 center fin. So it's a real small center. The whole board just, you know, just flies. Just looks fast standing still.
It does.
And that's the whole idea behind this. Probably the biggest waves I've surfed in recent memory was Thanksgiving Day 7 or 8 years ago, and it was solid 14 feet. And here in New Jersey, when it's 14 feet,
it's fucking terrifying.
It's big, and it's, you know, we're riding 5 mils, so I mean it's not an easy paddle. Short boarders couldn't get out, long boarders couldn't scratch in from the heavy west winds. And this board could cut through it like butter.
But it is so, like, you see the thickness up here. It stays pretty thick for like waist probably until like the belly of the board, and then it slowly gets a little bit thinner. You're definitely but you're definitely still moving back and forth on the board, so you can accelerate and decelerate, but you still have a ton of foam underneath you, and those. The concaves and the channels that just run straight through, as we were talking about before you started filming, is another addition of why you don't need to run the bigger fin, is because there's so much channel and because there's so much grip on the face of the wave, especially being straight vertical on a dropping in, and you know, you get a whole lot more hold because of it.
You can, you know, just fly paper stuck to the side there, and there's a whole lot going on in these designs that if you don't look closely, if you don't really talk to a shaper about it, you may not see it. But if you take the board into thirds, the front third is a displacement, you know, kind of rolled entry with a pinched 50/50 rail profile, and then goes into a single concave in mid-board with a slight up rail, and then a heavy down rail with a double concave and then flat out the back for the release.
Hold.
So yeah, so you got a whole lot going on here, and in addition to which, there must have been like a panel V in the initial shaping bay before they carve out the double concave, because if you look, the stringer is higher than the rail, which means that, you know, that center raised piece here is almost acting as another fin, and that ability once again to transition rail to rail, because the rail profile is lower than your midline.
So you never even need to get your far fin. You never, probably don't ever even get that far fin in the water, just because there's so much hold from the side bite and the one skeg and then all the channel.
And you can you know, close-footed stance and trim out and just go for broke from the middle, trimming out, and then just take one step back and just roll the board over and show nothing but bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, the board is, it has all the positive hold that you want, and all the release that you need off the top at high speed. This is my blankie. This is my confidence board when, you know, when it's big and ugly.
This makes you feel good.
This is the confidence board.
Okay, so this is our biggest board that we own. This is an 11.0 glider. This board is kind of terrifying to drop into because it kind of tells you what it wants to do. You don't tell it what you want to do. You really have to think 2 steps ahead, in the sense that, like, yes, that board previous was a 9.0 glider, but an 11-foot board is a completely different ball game. It is just ginormous. This is a boat. It's so easy to get into, and it's pointed nose. When we get a west wind, you know, you can still get in with this board because it's still a tapered nose and it doesn't have all this volume underneath you. But at the same time, it's an 11.0 board, and it rides completely different than the glider of previous. So, and yeah.
So it took about 2 years for Bob and I to talk about this.
No, for you to convince Bob to allow you to order this board.
Bob had some real hesitancy about making an 11-foot glider here for the East Coast. And he didn't want to make a board that I was going to be unhappy with. But I really had it stuck in my claw that I wanted to experience what these guys were talking about, because it is a completely different ride. And once you get this wired, it's addictive. I mean,
I remember you riding this on a legitimate head high day, getting in with literally 2 paddles. 2 paddles, you're in, but then you're down the line and speeding.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, when you have a teenage son, not that he's a teenager now anymore, but when you surf with your teenage son, they don't really shower you with compliments. And so the first time I paddled out on this was a Labor Day, and it was thumping beach break right in front of Peter Village, and it was you know, shoulder to head, O-head on set. And Adam was out back, and I paddled back out, and he said, "Dad, all I'm going to say is I saw your spray off your bottom turn from out back." So yeah, you're displacing water. You know, you're putting this board up on rail. The board loves to be on rail, and then just
you don't turn.
You're trimming. You know, and you can. I mean, you're cutting down.
Yeah.
You're not doing full wraparounds and stuff, but this is the board. You know, someone described it to me as like trying to turn your car without brakes. You know, you have to be well thought out, know where you're going to go with the wave, and when your timing is on, it is such a good feel. It's just about flow and trim. This is style. And one of the things that Bob was big on is You can't see right now, but it's a redwood tapered stringer from, I believe, 3/8 or 1/2 inch down to 0, and the tail really allows you to flex off the tail and, you know, give it a real lively bottom turn. And it is, it's the 11.0 glider. And for all the hesitancy about surfing something like this in vertical beach break, it works. And a testament to that is you see a lot more guys riding this style board, you know, from any number of different shapers. But, you know, it's a San Diego thing, you know. Most of these guys are all going to pay credence to Skip. I mean, it was his eagle shape that started all this, and this is...
There is a definitely considerably less concave out of the tail on this board in comparison to the other one, and I think that has to do a lot of what we were talking about with the side bites, is you don't need those side bites. Obviously, you need a significantly larger skeg. That being said, no side bites, less concave, one just single fin.
Well, the cool thing about these guys is they're never static.
Yeah.
They're always experimenting.
Yeah, it's just a different feel.
So what you see here in the 7 or 8 year difference between when the 9.0 was shaped and this, they made the contours a lot more subtle, giving a little bit more release to the board. And I always ask the shaper to fin the board and just send it out to me with whatever fin he thinks is appropriate. So I ride an 8.5 on an 11-foot board.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's still not that big, yeah.
And
well, the tail is very narrow in comparison, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the guys once told me that if your fin can reach, you know, if you just toppled it sideways, if it reaches from the box to the rail, then you should have enough fin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the wider your tail, the more fin you'll need, so that when you go up on rail, you're not popping fin and blowing out. But though, you know, the West Coast guys definitely are riding less wood, less stringer, more flex, less fin, faster boards. And for all the guys that like doubted whether they would fit well here, I don't know if it works for everybody, but it feels good underneath my feet.
It's a whole lot for me, so it doesn't really matter for anyone else.
I just don't really care because it feels good for me. So there it is. But this is my 11-foot glider, and it's like I said, once
this is the Raging Bull. This is the Lamborghini Raging Bull of surfboards in our Quiver.
Once you get a feel for this and a taste for it, you know, you never let it go. And I got to tell you, between the 9-footer and this one, I rode a 7.6 Bonzer in this style. I had an 8.2 single in this style. All gliders. And no matter what length, what fin setup, the glider shape is just tried and true.
So this rounds out the gliders in our Quiver. This is the final installment that we have received. We first got the 9.0, and then we got the 11.0, and now we have the 10.0. This is the last one that we got. This one is shaped by Johnny Bourbon. It's 10.0. He studied the craft of Bob Nitzfin and Skip Fry to come up with this model. It's a little bit different. It has the same little things. It definitely takes pieces from the Skip Fry Eagle. Just some things to point out that are really interesting sitting here that I'm noticing right now. This concave, this single concave, is insane. It's also very different than the other boards. It's really tapered through the, like incredibly tapered through the tail, more so than both of the others. But it still carries the same kind of thickness through the waist and the belly of the board, and then still has the pointed nose to get into a little bit more wave with more wind, especially the west wind here on the East Coast.
So yeah, this is as Adam said, result. one day when I was riding the 11-footer, and Johnny showed up and was surfing at the same break, and you know, there was some conversation that I had kind of lost my mind about surfing the 11-footer and then some overhead waves, and Johnny took it upon himself to design me a board that was meant for you know, some more waves of consequence. And so he took his Rorqual model, his glider model, and he put a little bit more rocker into it, definitely foiled it out and pulled it in a little bit, so the wave, the board reacts to a bigger, better wave. Some of the big difference, as Adam said, there's a single concave, especially right in that mid-board, that trim section, and then kind of an up rail. When you see videos of someone riding one of Johnny's boards, it's a very dry rail type of board, so you have a lot in trim, you have a lot less board actually in the water causing drag. So the board does fly. It's just a great board. I use a slightly different fin on this one. That's a Wayne Rich power fin. Gives it a lot of drive. Push it up to the front of the box, loosen it up, you know, keep the board loose. But just overall, you know, Johnny's just a super talented guy, and just a really sweet guy to deal with. But that's my Johnny Bourbeau 10-footer.
It's really interesting to look at the rail profile, especially when you get from this single concave and then it totally goes, it's just weird, it's different, right?
Lifted rail.
It is a lifted rail, and then it gets super hard into the tail of the board. It's very different.
So yeah, you do have kind of that lifted rail,
yeah.
Maybe like a 60-40 here,
yeah.
And then transition into not quite an edge and a hard rail, but just definitely giving you a little bit more turnability from the tail, because on the East Coast we need to turn.
Yeah.
And we have, you know, it's all beach break, it's all steep beach break conditions, so we need to be able to turn. We need to turn quick. So yeah, just a little bit different board, and you know, as we saw, that for me, that evolution from my 9-footer to get me in up to the 11-footer, but in between there were other boards, a 7.6 5-fin Bonzer, an 8.1 single fin, and I think the overall concept here for me, and not for everybody, but underneath my feet, that glider shape in any configuration, any size, works really well.
It's like cheating.
It is like cheating, but
especially on bigger days, it's like cheating to get in.
It's like cheating, but like fun cheating, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is just an addictive feel, and once you get on it, you know, it's hard to put it down.